Hi everyone, we are officially in week 8 of the business management module, and this week we will be looking at controlling. So controlling is the final step and the most important link in the management process. And so if we think about it, we can say the most brilliant plans can be formulated, the most impressive organizational structures can be put into place, and people can be motivated to achieve goals. But unless somebody is in control of the process, or if there is no control over that whole process, then the goals won't be realized. So control is very, very important in the process, and that's why we're going to be looking at it today. So what do we mean by controlling? Controlling means that the organizational activities are regulated, just to ensure that performance remains within acceptable limits, and of course performance remains intact. And so if you are a manager, then controlling will give you an up-to-date picture of what is happening and how your business is performing. So that's very, very important for us to remember. Also, what we need to remember is that controlling implies that the behavior of individuals can be influenced in terms of the course of activities and events. And so as the activities and the events run, the process of watching over those activities and events is very, very important. So what are we going to do within controlling? This week what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at how organizations use the control process to achieve their goals. And we will outline the various aspects of control, including the reasons why control is important and the different types of control within the business. So first and foremost, if we are looking at control, if we use control measures, the manager and the business can look at the following factors. We can look at product processing rates, so how quick are we producing products, and is that product of a particular quality? We can look at stock accuracy, so how much stock is there? Are we controlling the amount of stock that we are manufacturing and then also the stock that we are selling? We can look at things like inventory costs. We can look at space utilization, wastage. There's a whole list of things that we can look at that controlling will affect. And if you look on page 224 of your textbook, there's a whole list of those. Please go through those. So in essence, management control allows the manager to steer the team towards formulated goals and monitoring all aspects of the business. This is something that we've just discussed. So what do we do in terms of the importance of control and what types of control are available? So again, if you look in your textbook on page 226, we've got a whole list of why the control process is necessary. And some of it is that control is exercised just simply to ensure that all activities at all levels of the organization are in accordance with the mission and goals. So we've always got the strategic mission, the strategic plan, and then we always work towards that plan and that mission. Control is also applied to ensure that the organization's resources are used so that it achieves its goals. So at the end of the day, we are putting control measures in place simply so that we can achieve the mission and the plans and the goals of the organization. So have a look at the reasons for a control process, as those are very important. And then we need to think about what kinds of controls are there. So if you look in your PowerPoint for this week, you'll see that I've got 3 types of control. I've got pre-control, concurrent control, and post-control. So pre-control measures look at the inputs before they go through the transformation process, and it's obviously done to prevent a poor transformation process. And so we look at all the factors that play a role in the transformation process, and also we look at preventing incorrect or faulty inputs from being used. Things that could be input factors would be human resources, materials, capital, technology, information. If we look at the benefits of pre-control, simply they are there because they prevent errors, they reduce errors, they minimize the need for correction. Then we've got concurrent or screening measures that we can put into place. And this type of control looks at the quality control of activities during the transformational process. So the inputs go in, and then the transformation process happens. And so we're looking at what happens when the process is actually happening. And so the main aim of this control is to solve problems while they occur in the transformation process, and it's also more economical because you can reject faulty input resources at the very beginning, and if there's any others that happen to slip by the first process, we can look at them again in this concurrent or screening measure. Things that would be quality control during a transformation process would be things like the production or operations process, the retail process, the service process, and again, we put in corrective controls, and then we do in-process correction, and then continuous control. Then also we have post-control measures. So what happens on the output stage of the process? And so here we'll look at factors such as final quality control. We'll look at anything in terms of identifying errors that have passed pre-control and screening control. And the intention here is to identify what has been done incorrectly and then to solve the problem or correct the problem so that it doesn't occur again. So even though we've been through the first two stages, at the third stage there may be other things that we could possibly fix. Again, things that we could look at is the final product. So say for example we are creating the perfect cup of coffee, and at the first step in the process the coffee isn't granularized enough, and so we change the product. Then during the transformation process we might be pouring the water in. The water might be cold because maybe the kettle hasn't boiled, and so we'll put in a corrective process there and a control process to make sure that we boil the kettle. But then at the end of the process we realize, oh, actually we didn't put enough milk or sugar into the coffee, and so we can correct the process again. So it's an ongoing control process. And the likely impact of post-control is that it reduces unwanted behaviors and it conforms with company regulations. So what we need to also look at is the relationship between the different types of control. So we've got inputs, we've got transformation, and we've got then, which is the concurrent control, and then we've got the transformation at the post control. And so we'll input the raw materials, so human resources, the finances. It goes through the production process, which is the concurrent control that we have over that process, and then we get a product or service at the end. And that product or service at the end, we can look at the post control. So that's how they all relate. So if we remember, a couple of weeks back we looked at the whole transformation process. Now we're taking that transformation process and we're saying, okay, what controls do we put into place to ensure that we get the same product, a quality service at the end? What do we fix in each of those bits or each of those parts of the process to ensure that we get the best product or the best service, or we achieve the goal of the organization? What kinds of sources of control do we have? Because that's quite important for us. So we need to look at stakeholders, we need to look at organizational controls, we need to look at group sources of control, and we need to look at individual ones. And then again, with those sources of control, there's preventative and there's a corrective side to it. So have a look in terms of the preventative and the corrective sides of it. It's in your textbook again. But just to quickly chat about it, stakeholder control is best seen in the pressure that they exert on the company, because if you don't have stakeholders and they aren't there to influence what happens in the organization, then we won't have that part of control. Organizational control is concerned with the formulation and the compliance of procedures within the company to achieve acceptable performance standards. And then group control is the control exercised on its members and refers to norms and values of the group or the organization, the group in the organization. And this obviously expects an adherence to norms, and deviations from them is not tolerated. And then individual self-control is a source of control made up of the conscious and the unconscious, and it guides mechanisms that operate within each person. So an example of stakeholder control would be unions, human rights groups, consumer groups. An example of organizational control is maybe adherence to safety procedures. An example of group control is maybe if you're sitting at work and you're using the internet and you're YouTubing and you're not supposed to, or you're surfing the net, it's not tolerated then by the business environment. So in some organizations that isn't allowed at all, and you don't have external access to the internet. And then individual control, an example would be if you maybe make something and it's not up to your standard, then you will remake the product. So it's very important that we focus on these types of control, the sources of control, so that we can understand what the criteria are for effective control. So what I'm doing this week is also, I'm going to make little videos. So that's the first video for this week. I'm going to upload the others as well, so they'll all be in the same place on iCan where you usually find them. But I thought it's quick and easy for you to listen to smaller videos that I do. So I will see you in the next video in a few minutes. Okay then, have a good day. Bye.